in just a second. Yes, there will be video. Getting a couple of final things lined up, letting people get in. Okay. All righty. That's all queued up. There we go. You know what? Let me share it. Go ahead and get the share done while I'm thinking about it. This is the way I need to do it from now on, I guess. Share. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom. All right, let's get rolling. Finally, Clemson Sports Talk has come back to Drive Time. Hello, everybody. Lawton Swan back in the saddle once again. It is the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk for you each and every afternoon as you make your way around the great state of South Carolina and beyond, listening to us on incredible radio stations like Fox Sports Radio 1400, the Midlands, heard around the world on the iHeart Radio application. Download today. It is free. The website, put the .com on it. Doggone it. That's Clemson Sports Talk.com. Great stories, content, and coverage of your Tigers available. $1 for a premium membership. Get you 3 months. After that, $63.17. And, of course, we are heading into the 20th anniversary of that 63-17 final score between the Tigers and the Gamecocks. And I don't know if there will ever be a more satisfying number put up in the series for Clemson Tiger fans. That one has managed to last 20 years, and it still rings solid for Tiger Nation. It's a What to Watch Wednesday. What does that mean for you, the listener? Well, we set up 10 matchups for you to tune into this weekend, give you a rundown of the day, and then we knock them out. And again, I showed the list from last week. I mean, I just go through, mark them down, think about the storylines, think about the players involved, the national headlines, all of that rolled in to the bag of chips. And we got our list right there, quick flash for you. Don't want to give it all away in a moment. Again, if you're watching, share the show. If you didn't know, yes, it's not just a podcast. It's a radio show, even though some people, when I went on the air a decade ago, thought I wouldn't be around very long.
I listen to sports talk radio all over the nation, but the way you come across makes me sick. You're going to find yourself not on the radio.
And some people really appreciated the show.
Pow!
And so now we are here every day from 4 until 6 o'clock if you're listening live on the iHeart Radio app. If you want to catch the program streaming live, like if you want to catch me recording the show, and there's a little back channel work that goes into it because I got to get connected to iHeart, which I meant to do before I got online with you today, but I didn't. Anyway, that show's probably going to kick off around 3:20 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So if you got questions, you want to be a part of the show, you can. We'd love to have you hang out with us here on the program today. 803-450-0086. There's your text and phone line. Now, in the NBA last night, a little brawl for it all, if you will, between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Golden State Warriors, like right out of the gate. Rudy Gobert got tangled up in a headlock, I guess you would say, from Draymond Green. What will Green's suspension be? We'll discuss some of that. I watched it several times. I got a lot of thoughts on it. And of course, we've got you covered with college football conversations as your Clemson Tigers prepare to take on the North Carolina Tar Heels in Death Valley on ESPN, 3:30 kickoff for that one. I think the most intriguing thing about this, and I've seen it on social media. By the way, if you don't follow us on social media, we are at Clemson Sports on Twitter, and you could probably find us at Clemson Sports on Instagram and something similar. I think it might be Clemson Sports Talk on TikTok. I need to get to 1,000 followers on TikTok. If you're watching the show on YouTube, make sure you ring that bell. Make sure you subscribe. I need to get to 1,000 subscribers there as well. For whatever reason, I've never pushed it. And quite frankly, since we switched to doing the show the way I currently do it, I haven't been streaming the shows as much, but I'm going to do it as much as I can. I know Friday, it's not going to happen. Can't do the show on Friday, but we will be here for you live streaming the show tomorrow. But the radio show on Friday, man, you're all good. Next week, programming note for everybody, we'll do a Monday, Tuesday. We're off for Thanksgiving Wednesday, Thursday, and then we bounce back on, what do they call it? Is that Black Friday? Is that what they call it, where everybody goes out and gets the shopping deals? Well, I've never got to partake in that. As a matter of fact, at one point, when we used to do this show, we would do like the, radiothon, you know what I mean? Like raising money and stuff, and we'd be out and about doing that. And I got to tell you, those days were hectic, dude. I would do 5-8 hours of sports talk radio. And I love sports talk radio. But let me tell you, 5 to 8 hours of sports talk radio, that's a day. That's a day. But thank you for hanging out with us again. Share the show. Tell your friends and neighbors. And if you're so inclined, tell your friends' neighbors, especially if they're Tiger fans, that we're here. Because I run into Clemson fans every day in the Midlands and go, I didn't even know you were here. Now, I've never put it on a billboard. Maybe I should. I've just trusted that social media and word of mouth would help us grow. So thank you to everybody who's done that. All right. Here's the thing about Clemson in North Carolina, though, that I would say is a little bit surprising to me at this point, is simply the fact that Clemson comes in favored at the open by 7.5, and it's dropped down to 6.5. And I'm not overly, I don't have like a, oh man, what about that? But it is significant, I feel like, that North Carolina is an 8-2 ball club. North Carolina is a team that many people would make the argument have about the second or third best quarterback in the country. Now, whether or not Drake May has played that way at this point, 231 of 351 of the season, passing 3,145 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, is really up to you. Where do you want to put him in the lineage or the list of quarterbacks to be taken in the upcoming NFL draft? He's certainly one of the top 5 quarterbacks. If you wanted to argue me down off of number 2 to number 3, sure, I'll listen to those arguments. I think number 1, even though his team is not having a stellar year, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, Caleb Williams, I think will be the number 1 overall selection. Michael Penix Jr., given what he's done this year, has a chance to maybe go number 2 off the board and surpass Drake May. And then, from there on down, who would it be? But it's hard for me to think May's past third for most of the experts in the NFL. Based off of the way draft history goes, has been spurts, maybe a drip under pressure. It's not been great. Like every time I look at the NFL, I see names. Like I look at Justin Fields, and I remember him wowing at Ohio State. And I go, man, he's not exactly wowing in the NFL. And I know he's supposed to, I think, be back for the Bears this week. But it is a different game. And that's pretty apparent when you see guys who have these prolific careers collegiately, who are in the conversation for the Heisman Trophy. Maybe even they win the Heisman Trophy. and then they get to the NFL and it doesn't translate the way people thought. I'll give you a prime example. I understand how good Lamar Jackson has been in the NFL. I don't want to diminish Lamar Jackson by any means, but I believe outside of Baltimore, where he currently resides, and maybe even in Baltimore, if you said, well, would you prefer to have a guy like Trevor Lawrence? Would you prefer to have a guy like Joe Burrow? The answer is probably yes. So your accolades and what you've won and how you did it at the collegiate game doesn't always translate to the NFL, but I believe Drake May fits the mold of what NFL coaches and scouts want. I think Dabo Swinney's comment, I played some of him for you yesterday. I got a chuckle out of the part where he talked about how, Drake May was so good he made the popcorn taste better when you're at the ball game. And so the Tar Heels will come in ranked 20th in the country, 8-2, 4-2 in the ACC, sitting in a tie for third place behind Florida State and Louisville, who are on a crash course to hit one another in the ACC championship game. But all that being said, I think Clemson being favored by 6.5 leans a lot towards the belief that this Clemson Tiger defense is going to play really well on Saturday. And I got to admit, I'm not going to say that I was skeptical, okay, of Wes Goodwin heading into year 2. But I think maybe more so than a lot of people, I was cautiously optimistic, but I was really concerned for him. And I don't have like a close relationship with Wes Goodwin by any means, but maybe more so than most of the staffers there. And I know you might kind of see Wes as a dude that's playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. But I think Goodwin, because of kind of where he came from to where he is, at least at this point in his existence as the defensive coordinator at Clemson, hasn't gotten that separation that some coaches want to have from everybody else. So that when I've spoken with him, it feels, I always talked about how honest and open it felt like Brent Venables was, maybe more so than most coaches. That guy was, you talk about a gem to cover. Oh my goodness. Give me coverage of Brent Venables all day, every day. I mean, he was amazing because you felt like you were talking to a buddy. You felt like you were talking to somebody that wasn't trying to mask everything and hide all the details. You felt like a guy that was an open book. And I'm sure it wasn't completely, but I get the same vibe around Wes Goodwin. Now, when he started, it certainly wasn't a polished speaker. This was like his first time with a book out in public and going on a speaking tour. It's not like Stephen King. I'm sure Stephen King, when he's doing an engagement, I'm sure it's a lot better than somebody that's day one. And Goodwin's really come around in that capacity, but I was concerned. I really was concerned that given what happened to Brandon Streeter with a bad season, Wes Goodwin was going to find himself maybe somewhat on the hot seat. And a lot of people would say, no doubt about it, that might have been where he is. But look at what they've done over the past 6 ball games. Clemson has held 6 straight opponents to fewer than 200 passing yards for the first time since a 10-game streak back in 2019. And as you can see, Kank 2001 said, I guess that just shows how bad the offense struggled. You think they would have won all those games. The defense has been playing at an elite level. The secondary, the safeties, and the corners, Mike Reed, Mickey Kahn, those dudes are getting it done. And you saw young guys last weekend, 4 freshmen getting interceptions in that ball game for the Tigers against the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Now, it's already weird enough. I know Paul Johnson's been gone for a while. I know that obviously Jeff Collins was there trying to change their system up, and now Brent Key taking over the program. If you'd have ever told me, though, that Clemson was going to get 4 interceptions against a team on their schedule, and that it was going to be Georgia Tech at some point, based off of what we've seen from them, that looked like they were running like an offense from 1894 for so many years. It's kind of like, yeah, I don't think it's Georgia Tech. But then it was, and it just continued to perpetuate a streak that's pretty impressive. And it'll be difficult to pull off that same feat 7 games in a row for the Clemson Tigers, especially when you consider the numbers that Drake May has put up. I mean, 342 yards passing for May against Duke, 244 against Campbell, 310 against Georgia Tech. We'll come back to that one in a minute. 347 against Virginia, 273 against Miami, 442 against Syracuse, 296 against Pitt, 414 against Minnesota, 208 against App State, and 269 yards passing against the South Carolina Gamecocks. Not once this season, not once has Drake May been held under 200 yards passing, something Clemson has done, again, to 6 straight opponents. As the late, great Gorilla Monsoon might say, this feels a little bit like the irresistible force meeting the immovable object.
Oh, yeah.
In Death Valley, a couple of good things here for the Tigers, I think. Number one, Clemson fans just don't like North Carolina. The wine and cheese, North Carolina, you know how games have always been officiated in basketball, and Clemson fans can't stand that. They can't stand that. I know you can't stand that. And so I think the stadium, good little 3:30 evening kickoff where the night's going to fall and the lights are going to be on. It's going to feel like a night game in the second half. I think Clemson fans are going to be amped up and ready for this one. But I want to go back to that Georgia Tech game for a minute. Not the Clemson Georgia Tech game, the North Carolina Georgia Tech game. And one of my buddies has YouTube TV, and I'm sure a lot of you probably have YouTube TV, you know, the multicast. And I'm a victim of not being smart enough when it comes down to how I've handled my YouTube TV. You know, you can choose to record every college football game. It's unlimited DVR. I don't choose to do so. I wish I did, though, and I think I'm going to for next football season because, and you can find a lot of games online anyway, but like this Georgia Tech, North Carolina game for me is one where I say, man, I wish I just had that on the television. I wish I could just pull that up right now. Go watch the key plays as YouTube TV puts together. But this is a team that Georgia Tech scored 46 points on. 46. And that leads me right to what Howard just commented. I don't know when Howard commented. Let's see, 31. About 6 minutes ago. He said UNC's defense isn't much better than last season. And so you go back and you talk about the passing stats and the numbers that Drake May has put up. But then you have to consider possessions. You have to consider how many times Drake May got the football back in his hand because the defense was giving up points. And I think that Georgia Tech game is a prime example of that. The fact that Virginia, and I love Tony Elliott, so thankful that he got that win. What a huge victory for his program, given some of the difficulties that they faced during his short tenure there. But if I look at it, I'm thinking, man, possessions is how North Carolina's winning. Possessions, Drake May getting the ball in his hands frequently is why you see those numbers. Is he elite? No doubt about it. There's no question he's a great quarterback. But he's getting a lot of touches. A lot of touches. And what I think Clemson will hope to do in this ball game, certainly, look, you'd love to be able to score frequently on them. Right? I I mean, you'd love to see Clemson somehow climb that ladder into the 35, 42-point range. Are they going to get there? Possibly not. But with the ground attack that Clemson's got right now, love what you've seen from Phil Maffa. I still want to see Phil Maffa get 80% of the carries, 75, 80% of the carries. First and second down carries. Will Shipley can do his thing on third down. Shipley obviously looked good this past weekend for Clemson. But I still think that in the running back room, Phil Maffa's got to be the guy. Phil Maffa's got to be the guy. Be able to run the ball against North Carolina, shorten the clock a little bit, still score with the passing game. But I think what you want to avoid is just a track race. You know what I mean? Just a track meet. I don't think you want that if you're Clemson. 803-450-0086. We still have our What to Watch Wednesday segment coming up. We'll catch you also up with what matchups are coming up here in the next couple of days. There were football games yesterday, not major teams, but we'll tell you what that looked like when we get back right here on the show that shakes the Southland. It's Clemson Sports Talk on Fox Sports Radio 1400 the Midlands, around the world on the iHeart Radio app. All right, welcome everybody. Man, thank y'all for hanging out. What I'm going to do, I think I might be able to, I was looking at it yesterday. If I put the little stamp on, you'll see what I mean in a minute. It makes it easy for me to break it up, and I can repurpose these without all this part in the middle. So that's what I'm going to start doing. It's easy, get some distribution. I do have to connect to iHeart there real quick, so I apologize. Yeah, I mean, I can do it while I'm talking, but it's not fun. Not fun at all. All right, let's see. iHeart. There we go. Everybody doing all right? I see Kevron's in the house. Kevron, you live in the Midlands? I feel like I saw a picture of you at the Fireflies game or something. All right. Connected there. Wow. I like that. We might do that. Let's see. I do like that topic. Okay. Almost done. For anybody that just joined us, I had to get connected to iHeart. I need to get that Red Bull sponsorship, don't I? That would be nice. Free Red Bull for Swanny. Hook me up. All right, there we go. Today, going in there. Time is it 42? Okay. I can do the next segment and then upload everything. Let me just get the computer pulled up. Let me just get the computer pulled up. There we go. Let's get rolling. So this is what I mean by the stamp, and this helps me. And you know what? We're going to come back. Well, I got to give the scores and all that. You got to follow up with the T's in radio. I don't always. Sometimes I forget, but I'm not going to forget today. All right, we're good. All right, here comes the stamp that I was telling you about. Rolling along on a Wednesday afternoon. It's a What to Watch Wednesday. We'll give you our 10 games coming up in hour 2, top of the hour, to watch this weekend. But first, I told you before the break, some of the matchups that you missed and some of the matchups that you've got upcoming. Last night, Toledo beat Bowling Green 32-31, a tight one over there in Kentucky. Western Michigan was at Northern Illinois, and Northern Illinois pulled the 24-0 shutout. Also, directional school Eastern Michigan, they went and got a win, or they hosted, I should say, a win over Akron. That matchup went to 2 overtimes. Tonight, you got Central Michigan at Ohio, 7 o'clock on ESPNU. Buffalo's at Miami of Ohio, 7 o'clock on ESPN2. Then tomorrow night, you've got Boston College at Pittsburgh, 7 o'clock on ESPN. And Friday night, South Florida's at University of Texas San Antonio, UTSA, 9 p.m. ESPN2. Colorado's at Washington State, 10:30 on FS1. Now, we had a question from Joshua in the comments. Joshua, stick with me because I know during the break I said we'll get right to that one because I think it's a great question, Joshua. But I do have to get in the updated college football playoff rankings. And quite frankly, not a lot of news here. Matter of fact, I didn't need a committee in Grapevine, Texas to tell me what the top 4 was going to look like. I believe if you were here yesterday, I told you exactly what it was going to look like. And Georgia, by virtue of their 2 victories, one over Missouri, one over Ole Miss, have now advanced to the top spot in the college football playoff rankings, sitting there at 10-0 and number 1, passing Ohio State. The Buckeyes dropped back 1 to number 2. They're followed by Michigan. Those 2 teams will face off next week. So somebody's getting punched in the face there. I don't know who's going to fall out, what's going to happen, but it is 2 prime college football playoff candidates meeting on the gridiron, and there's a lot of what's the word surrounding Michigan right now. There's a cloud of, what is it? What would you call that? I personally don't think, I think if they were found guilty, they don't need to be in the college football playoff. That's just me. Problem is the clock's ticking. And if they beat Ohio State, it's going to be incredibly difficult to keep them out of the playoff if the College Football Playoff Committee does nothing to pull them out, because I don't think the NCAA is going to make a decision fast enough. So there's a chance that Michigan could be in the playoffs, and there's a chance that the Wolverines could win a national title. There's a chance that in 3 or 4 years down the line, the NCAA could finally stop dragging their feet and go, we're going to take that away. But you don't get to take it away. The memories are there forever. I want the consequences dished out now. And if that consequence is those kids don't get to go to the playoff, then so be it. That's the way it is. Let me tell you something that you don't do as a parent, as an educator, whatever. You can't, your kid can't do something wrong, okay, right now, and then you punish them for it 3 weeks from today. That's not how it works. They're not going to remember why am I being punished for, Dad? You remember 3 weeks ago when you pushed your sister? That's why you're being punished. Go to your room. Doesn't make any sense. The consequence has to happen now. That's who needs to be punished. Because in the future, I agree. Some other kids at Michigan, 3 years down the line from now, don't deserve to be punished for what's happening now at Michigan. But I digress because I don't know that anything's going to be changed anyway. Florida State checks in at number 4. The top 4 is exactly what I told you I thought it would be. Washington checks in at number 5. Oregon's at number 6. Those two teams potentially facing off for the Pac-12 championship. And where it could really get squirrely is if Oregon beats Washington. For where we sit today, with Texas at 7 and Alabama at 8, and Texas having gone into Tuscaloosa and winning that game, this is, I feel like, as tight a race for those 4 spots as we've seen. It easily, to me, justifies the thought process of going to 12, because if you think about it for a second, and there are a lot of people out there, Dabo Swinney's one of them, that have not been in favor of really going to a larger playoff because they feel like it waters down the regular season. And I know we have 2 regular season games remaining. And I know that in this rendition of the college football playoff, the 5 in the future, the 5 conference champs and all that, and if it's 4 conference champs, and based off of what I saw yesterday, it sounds like the Pac-12 is going to continue to exist. It may just be Washington State and Oregon State. I don't really understand all that right now. I haven't been able to read enough about it to pontificate eloquently, so I won't. But it sounds like that league may end up continuing to have a seat at the table. All that being said, taking a look at these top 8 teams, if there was a 12-team playoff, tell me how watered down this is. Who is it watered down for? Certainly those 8 are still vying for some very valuable positioning in the top 4, which grants you a bye. Missouri, who is ranked 9th at 8-2, still in the mix. Eli Drinkwitz's team, one of the most shocking programs this year, outside of the team right behind them, the Louisville Cardinals, who are 9-1 and ranked number 10. Oregon State and DJ Uiagalelei sitting there at number 11 at 8-2. Penn State, number 12. Now, look, I talked a lot about Penn State yesterday. I'm not impressed by the Nittany Lions, but are they one of the top 12 teams in the country? Should they be in a 12-team playoff? Possibly. Give them a chance to go prove themselves. The same could be said for Ole Miss, Oklahoma, LSU. I don't think it waters anything down. I think it makes it better. All right, wrapping up the top 15. Behind Oregon State at 11 is Penn State at 12, Ole Miss 13, Oklahoma 14, LSU is 15. Outside of that, not a lot to talk about. We'll hit a break. We'll come back. I'm going to get to Joshua's question about Will Shipley when we return. Stay with us. Boom. That's how you do it, kids. That's how you do it. But Swanny, what about the last 10? What about the last 10 teams in the College Football Playoff Committee's rankings? Bro, really? Do you really care where Tulane's rank right now? Top 15. I mean, look, right now, all those teams would be in it. I can make an argument probably. I don't know enough about Iowa to say, but Notre Dame, North Carolina, they might be playing for their shot to get in the future. All right. Definitely got to upload the show real quick. Boom. Make sure you share it. Make sure you go to Facebook and like it. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. That would be huge if you follow us on TikTok, man, because we're not, I mean, I know it's 600 people, but you guys can pull that off. Like I say, we're going to try to be live here more often, so share it and join us. I'm trying to decide if I want to do the naming convention like I did yesterday, where it was like, will Dabo Swinney leave? That seemed to engage more people to come in, but I hate coming up with that before the show. I just hate it. Matter of fact, for most of the years with like the title of the show, like when I made the podcast, when I put it up at the end of the program, the title of the podcast often comes from something that was said in the show that wasn't like pre-scripted. You know, I found like a statement I might make about a certain thing, and I'd go, okay, yeah. This is the Wolverines, you know, cavity edition. If I said something about like a Wolverine having cavities, I mean, I've never said that till today. That might be the name of this show, even though the people won't hear it. I'm hitting the regular Red Bull today. I gotta say, man, after having that blueberry one yesterday, this doesn't seem to have the same. I mean, I like the flavor, but it's not. I like that blueberry, I think. Five minutes to showtime on iHeart. If you missed anything, you can catch the show live there, 4 o'clock, Fox Sports Radio 1400. You can also stream it on our website as well, ClemsonSportsTalk.com. All right, segment 2. Since I just loaded that audio, I'll go ahead and pop it in real quick, and we are rolling. Throw the stamp on it, Swanny. Boom. All right, here we go. Segment 3. I was going to stream like a football game or something. Then I was like, I don't want to use any bandwidth. I can't find anything to put on the TV here. All right, here we go. Clemson Sports Talk on a What to Watch Wednesday, 803-450-0086. That is the text line and the phone line. Feel free to give us a call. Feel free to text us. Not going to put the calls up live right now, so just leave us a message. But I will say, the more I do this, the more I get back in the rhythm. You know what I mean? It is. It's like I've been on injured reserve because I haven't streamed in a while. Once I get back in the rhythm, I'll start taking the calls live here on the stream. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Like, share, subscribe. Also, make sure you go over and find us on TikTok as well. We're trying to get to 1,000. If we can get to 1,000 subscribers on TikTok, we might stop going live on one of the 3 places we go live. We're also on Instagram. So, anyway, you can message questions as well if you don't want to call in. Joshua hits us up. He says, Swanny, do you think Will Shipley stays or goes after the season? And how does that affect Clemson if he decides to go? Okay. Well, first off, and again, he was pretty non-committal about it yesterday. Basically, say he's living in the now. That's kind of what Dabo Swinney tells him to do. I talked about that a little bit on the program. But let's talk about what we've learned, okay, about the value of running backs in the NFL. It's virtually none. I mean, there's not a position that I've ever seen in my life go from being you got to have a great one and you got to pay the man to you can find somebody to get the job done. Now, there are players in the league, elite running backs in the league. It's not to say those guys don't exist. All right. But based off of what I've seen from Will Shipley during his time at Clemson, based off what I've seen, that's not somebody they're going to pay a whole lot to come play in the NFL. I mean, I don't know how much he makes in NIL, but to me, running back value with NIL collegiately is probably greater than being a rookie that's drafted, at some point in the third, fourth round. Because running backs collegiately are still getting their names on Chipotle businesses, car dealerships. I don't think Will Shipley, to me, has proven that he's ready for the NFL. His numbers certainly don't stack up to what I expected of him coming out of high school as a 5-star running back. I've never felt like he was on some blistering pace to be, if I were ranking like the top 5 running backs in Clemson history, Will Shipley's not on that list. Is he even on the top 10? I mean, at this point, and again, look, he's got 2 more games in the regular season, another bowl game. But for me, I thought Will Shipley would have been more like the guy we saw a year ago. And I know he's been injured. But that stuff counts. Like that stuff, that's something that's factored in. That's why running backs aren't so valuable anymore in the NFL, because that's being hurt, ACLs, concussions, all those things factor in. Do we want to bring this guy in and have him be a part of our franchise or not? Those aren't my rules. I didn't make them. But that's why you see elite running backs that just are sitting there on the waiver wire trying to find somewhere to go, trying to find somebody to pick them up. And if they do, they're picking them up on the cheap because they're one hit away from being on the shelf for a year. They're one cut away from being on the shelf for a year. And you could say that about every position. I understand that. But the position that takes the brunt of the hits in that league, there was a guy when I was growing up named Shelly Hammonds. Shelly Hammonds was a cornerback that he played running back in high school, but he also played cornerback. He ended up going to Penn State. And there was a game against Boston College where the 2 or 3 running backs in front of Shelly Hammonds, trying to see if I can get this article from the New York Times pulled up here. This is pretty cool if I can pull it up. But anyway, the running backs that started in front of Shelly Hammonds got hurt. And Joe Pa needed a running back. And he knew Shelly could do it. And he put Shelly Hammonds in the game and won't let me show it to you. Anyway, that dude rushed for 208 yards in a half with touchdown runs of 65 and 48 yards. And he had another 59-yard one that got taken off of the board. This is a guy that was playing defense at Penn State that had played running back in high school. You can go back and find it. Just look up. I Google searched Shelly, Shelly. I think he's, Hammonds, Hammonds, 208 yards. I knew how much because it was a record for them at the time for a sophomore or freshman or whatever he was in a half. In a half. But when they ask him after the game, Is that something he wants to commit to? You know what he said? I'd rather be the hitter than the hit-e. And he did make it to the NFL, and he played with the Minnesota Vikings as a defensive back. The hit-e is the one that tends to take the damage. So for me, and Howard says, it seems like Shipley definitely took a step back this season, and he has been injured. I don't think he's run very well behind this offensive line. Even before they had switched the scheme, I was still saying Phil Maffa's the better running back of the two at this point, for whatever reason. I still believe that. Still think Maffa should get the bulk of the carries. But I think Shipley needs to either stay at Clemson or stay in college. I mean, he could portal out, but I don't think Will Shipley needs to move on to the next level at this point. I still think there's a lot he needs to improve on as a collegiate running back to make himself more valuable as a pro. Quick break. We'll come back. We'll put a bow on hour one right after this. All right. What do you think? Fair or unfair? I mean, am I just brutally honest? Am I just a terrible analyst? I mean, I think one of the weaknesses of Phil Maffa that kept him off the field was pass protection. And there was a glaringly obvious mistake in the Florida State game that ended up causing the scoop and score. Now, that play came off of a big run by Maffa. I can't remember how many yards it was. I feel like it was like 36. And you kind of wonder, was he just winded there and not see it? Because look, I don't know if y'all ever. I mean, obviously, I've never run with the football in the middle of a college football game. But if you've ever played sports and when you're extremely winded and your oxygen level's low, your vision's not spectacular. You're almost sometimes kind of seeing stars to a degree. But you kind of wonder if that was a part of it, that he didn't see it. Now, that's a tough pickup for him, too, but that's one you can't whiff on. That's one you can't just miss completely. But it happens. I mean, it didn't just happen in the Clemson game. It doesn't just happen to Clemson, I should say. 56-yard fumble return to Loach. Let me go to the play-by-play. If that was a 36-yard run by him on that thing, man, I'm tooting my own horn. Toot, toot. All right, let's see. Return, touchdown. 46 yards. Doggone it. 46. It was off a 46-yard run. I mean, that's 10 more yards. I'll take that as another reason he's probably a little worn out. All right, I got to wrap up that segment just a little bit different here. Quick break. We'll come back because I'm a little short on the time. Here we go. Quick break. We'll come back with more Clemson Sports Talk right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400 the Midlands and around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Boom. Now you see how the sausage is made. I gotta admit though, like some people would say, "Why don't you go down to iHeart and do the show at the studio and do it live like you used to?" That's great, but dude, that's 20 some odd minutes from my house one way. It's 40 minutes a day, 5 days a week. Didn't get home till like 6:22 at the best. I told you the other day, I can be done sometimes. The best I've ever done is 5:08. That's an hour and 15 minutes or so. That I save, that I get back, I can write, see the wife and kids, sleep. I mean, whatever. I mean, I'm an equal opportunity offender to all three of those things if I have to, do one of the above. Oh man. All right, let's see. Segment 4, final segment of hour number 1. Up. I can't believe. Oh man. Man. All right. So why, Swanny? Do I have to give him? I'm going to. All right, here we go. Final segment of hour number one here on the show that shakes the Southland. It's Clemson Sports Talk on Fox Sports Radio 1400 in the Midlands. Of course, you can listen around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Now, look, I have been on Paul Feinbaum's show. To be honest with you, when you do this job, if you get an opportunity to be on Colin Cowherd, to be on with Dan Patrick or Jim Rome, and I'm not putting them in Paul's category, okay? They're the next step up. They might even be 2 steps up from going on Paul. But I did go on Paul's show. And I'd go back, obviously, if he called. I've told you guys that. But I'm done. One thing I'm done with when it comes to Paul Feinbaum or anybody else in this business, okay? If you just say stuff to get clicks, like that's one thing. You know, I told you the story about the guy that I posted a premium article on our website. And I put in the thing, when it's premium, I put CST Plus. I put sign up for $1. And the guy said I wouldn't pay 1 penny. Dude, just keep scrolling. You don't have to say anything. But if you look at our site, clickbait. I'm not doing the clickbait. I'm not going to write articles about Paul Feinbaum when he says something about Clemson. Now, granted, I have a different format than some of the other sites that cover Clemson because I can talk about Paul right here. And that's what I'm going to do because some of the things he said, because we did a show yesterday about Dabo Swanny and Texas A&M. And I see we had a comment come through earlier from Justin. He says, have we lost Dabo to Texas A&M? And what I said here on the program yesterday, and I'll say it again, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, always said everybody has a price. There's a price. I believe that price exists for Dabo Swanny. I don't think Texas A&M would pay that price. And even if they were willing to pay that price, I still think for Dabo Swanny, it would be hard to leave what you've built. But here's what Paul Feinbaum had to say about it. He said, does he fit? Absolutely. Dabo Swanny aligns very well from a cultural, that's hard to say, cultural standpoint. Okay, so he did say cultural with A&M. Would he leave Clemson? I think he would. Wait for it. This is the part. They're kind of sick of him. And I think he's sick of them.
So you don't ever have to call back.
And before some Clemsonite comes out of his basement and starts telling me how I'm wrong I am, after a while, that happens. Happens to every coach usually, and there are a few exceptions. Nick Saban, pretty good exception after 17 years, but I think Dabo would be re-energized. I think he would be able to recruit well there. He's a good recruiter. His program has slipped at Clemson. It's not embarrassing, but 4 losses is not the Clemson standard. That's what Paul Feinbaum had to say about it. I'm going to tell you, you're wrong in the sense that Clemson fans are not sick of Dabo Swanny. The Clemson fans are not sick of Dabo Swanny. And the person that wrote in a while back, Caden, I think was his name, that said, Dabo Swanny has delivered for me and my family some of the greatest memories of our life. I don't know anybody. No Clemson fan has emailed, texted, called me and said, Swanny, I'm sick of Dabo Swanny. Now, do they get tired of some of what they might label as the arrogance in which Tyler called up and said you changed after you won the national championship? Are there people that feel that way? Like you can't question the things that Dabo Swinney is doing. Are there people that feel that way? Yeah, they are out there. But let me tell you how few those are. So few that if you ask that same group of people, you said, well, would you be willing to just let him go to bring in somebody else? About 95% of those people, right? So let's say that it's the 1.5%ers or whatever that Dabo Swinney kind of labeled them. 98% of that group would say, no, we're good. We will deal with these things. We can live with these issues that we have personally. I've said, I was asked this last week about Dabo Swinney. How long could he stay at Clemson? I still believe this. I think it's as long as he wants to stay. If he wants to coach to Clemson until the day he's pushing up daisies, he can do it. I think, look, I can't put him in like, when Frank Howard was coaching a little bit of a different era, and I'm not old enough to know when Frank Howard's time was done, was it like, hey, man, coach, time is you got to go. But I would put him in the category of if he wants to stay, he'll be at Clemson. Would he go to A&M? I said it yesterday. Yes, he would, I think, for the right price. What that price is, I don't know, but I think everybody's got one. If they offered him $22 million, would he go? I'd be hard-pressed to turn down double my salary. I'd be hard-pressed to turn that down. If you push me up to 25, of course I'm going. But that's me. I don't have X million in the bank already. They might say, hey, coach, we'll pay you $22 million. We might pull up his checkbook, about pass out at all the zeros. I about pass out at the zeros I'm missing. And go, what do I need? Like, what am I going to do with all that? What does it matter if I've got 80 million or 120? And he's happy where he is, and it's not a rebuild. And believe me, Texas A&M might not appear to be a dumpster fire. They might hate that terminology, but there's a lot of work you got to do to get that program in the right direction, in my opinion. All right, quick break. We'll come back. Hour 2. Stay with us. Eric wants to know if I'm going to the game this weekend. Luke will be there covering the game. My daughter has a soccer tournament this weekend, so I'll be doing a soccer thing. It's so funny because this is truth, and any of you that have kids probably know this. Like when my kids were little, not doing much little, you think, oh man, we're so busy. The kids got this, they got that. Dude, when they get to be like, my son is what, 14, my daughter's 11. Whew. We're constantly on the go, man. Constantly on the go. It's wild to me how busy we are now. So I will not be there this weekend. And I would have I would have been hard pressed to miss a game. I had a 25-year streak. 25 years consecutive. And COVID hit. Missed the game. Honestly, what really happened was Clemson switched how you did the post-game stuff, and I was like, why travel up there for that? Anyway, so from there, you just kind of get to, well, once you miss one, it gets easier. It's kind of like the gym. People after Christmas will go to the gym, or is it after Christmas or after the New Year's? New Year's, right? They make a resolution. And then they'll go to the gym, they'll go to the gym, they'll go to the gym, and then they'll miss one, two. Then it's November and they're going, next year, I'm going to go to the gym. Pay for that membership all year. I'm going to use it. What show is this? Are we at What to Watch Wednesday edition? Ooh, we are. Let's go. All right, here we go. It is hour number 2. That's drive time right here on the show that shakes the Southland Clemson Sports Talk. Lawton Swan hanging out with you on a What to Watch Wednesday edition of the program, where we give you 10 games. That's right, 10 matchups to tune into and watch this weekend. Some of them because they got a little local flavor, some of them because they got a little national impact, some of them because I just like the rivalry. There's a lot of reasons that we choose the games that we choose, but we give you 10 every week. And this has quickly become one of my favorite segments of the weekend because I've always just naturally done this, kind of lined up the weekend. But now I set it up for you. And you can find out when the most opportune time to, mow the grass or go to the store. And this week presents some early opportunities. Not a lot in the early window. We've been talking a lot about Dabo Swanny, the rumors of Texas A&M, what Paul Feinbaum had to say about it. Again, one of the other parts of Feinbaum's statement I don't agree with is where he says Dabo Swanny aligns well from a cultural standpoint. I don't agree with that. I told you here on the program yesterday, I think at some point A&M would have really fit Dabo Swanny. I don't think they do today. I think more so than A&M, I think Alabama certainly does. I could probably go through a host of programs that I think really have fit or would fit what Dabo Swanny kind of wants to have as a program. Now, could he change it to what he wants, kind of mold it? Yeah, I think he could. You see how he's done at Clemson, how quickly he did it. But I don't think right now they are the culture that he wants to be involved in. I mean, it's a cutthroat, win at all cost. And you might say, well, isn't that what Swanny is? I don't think so. Swanny's the success that Clemson has had, whether you want to believe it or not, is because of the type players that they get. And I don't mean the type athletes. That's helped, but it's the ability to find guys. I've said this for so many years. It's the ability to find 4-star players who put in 5-star effort and become 5-star players. It's the ability to find 3-star players who put in 5-star effort and become 4-star guys. Clemson didn't magically overnight start recruiting better than everybody else and getting the best of the best in terms of recruiting. They've certainly done well in that capacity, but this is not a program that's built on hoisting championships at the end of the year. That's not the end goal for this, for what Dabo Swanny sees for every player that comes in. Does he want them to hoist national championships? Yes. But would he prefer to run a program where kids are graduating and his guys aren't in the news for, all kind of issues that players can run into? That, I think, is the goal. Can you be perfect at that? No, it's impossible. It's impossible no matter how much you bring guys in your culture, love them up, build them up, have the Paul journey and all that you invest in those young men. You can't control the decisions that they make. You can only teach them how to make good decisions. And you have to hope that they continue down that path. I think he could turn the culture at A&M, but I don't think it is the culture that he would want. I just don't. Anyway, EFB, adios. 803-450-0086. Text line, phone line. Again, be a part of the program anytime. So, what to watch Wednesday? Here we go. Noon. You're free, man. You're free. You go out. You have a good time. You do you for that noon window. And I mean it. It is a lot of nothing. One game in that noon window worth tuning in and just checking out. And it's really more about one team. Well, okay. So number 10 Louisville at Miami. Noon kickoff ABC. If you're in the Miami area, tickets are $7. If that gives you any idea what we're talking about right now from the standpoint of the Miami Hurricanes and their fans' level of support. And you got to remember, this is a 6-4 team that managed to beat Clemson with their backup quarterback after the Tigers fumbled at the goal line. Just a frustrating start to the season for Clemson. But I digress. Miami enters off of back-to-back losses. They lost to NC State 20-6 on the road. They lost to Florida State 27-20. And now the Cardinals come rolling in. And the Cardinals have a chance. If they win, they will be 7-1 in conference play. And they will secure a berth in the ACC championship game against the Florida State Seminoles. That's one reason to watch. Number 2 is on the flip side. When Miami brought in Mario Cristobal, I don't know the guy. I've been around him a couple of times. I've interviewed him once. Mario Cristobal, when I heard him at ACC Media Days, not specifically with me, but year one, there was kind of an arrogance about him. You know, he comes across as being a guy who was a 5-star quarterback and not a guy that played on the offensive line. And you look at the 2 seasons that he's put together. I haven't checked the coaching hot seat lately, but I've got to believe that if Cristobal loses this game, falls to 6-5 on the season, with a matchup on the road at Boston College looming, if you know, and they're likely to lose this game. Let me see, what is ESPN? What's the spread on this ball game? I honestly don't even know. Miami minus a half a point. So the Hurricanes are slightly favored at home against a 9-1 Cardinals team. I mean, if they lose this game, and again, it's not going to be crowded, not going to be packed, not going to be a lot of fan support. Look out. And I'm not saying that Dan Radakovich, the athletic director, former Clemson athletic director, is like a guy that makes decisions just off the cuff, but Miami will enter year 3 with Mario Cristobal on watch. I do believe that. I mean, his tenure will be on watch next season. All right, so that's all I got for you in that noon window. So like I said, if you got the yard to do, need to get the edging done for the last time, you need to run out and get some holiday decorations, hey, have yourself a morning. You'll be just fine. Nothing else compelling in that window at all. 2:30, you get a matchup of 2 top 25 teams as number 22 Utah is on the road at Arizona. The Wildcats, a surprisingly ranked 17th in the country. The problem with this game, more than anything, you can't catch it because it's on the Pac-12 network. I don't even know how to get the Pac-12 network. So good luck with that. That frees you up till 3 o'clock. Duke at Virginia. This is on the CW. This feels like old school Raycom, Jefferson Pilot. Give me a little Steve Martin. Give me a little Doc Walker. Give me a little CW. Tony Elliott hosting the Duke Blue Devils. Obviously, it's been an unbelievable season for the Blue Devils. Mike Elko's name going to be in the rumors, going to be in the conversation for that Texas A&M gig. Elliott just, is a guy that I think Clemson fans are really, really rooting for. I mentioned the victory they had over North Carolina earlier in the ball game. They're not loaded with talent by any means. It does feel like this year Tony Elliott has managed to squeeze about as much juice as he can out of a dehydrated orange there in Virginia. But I appreciate their effort, man. They lost in overtime to Miami. They lost by 7 against Louisville. They were up against the Cardinals last weekend. I mean, they're giving him every ounce. Like Virginia fans, I know 2-8, 1-5 is not ideal. But you got to at least feel like you got a team where the players are bought in. And the tragedy that struck a year ago, that may have been about a year ago today, with the 3 players tragically that were shot and killed. I think that kind of cauterized this group and really brought that Virginia family together. And I know it's a tragedy, and you wish you could go back and change it, but you can't. And that whole program was affected, but they moved forward, and they moved forward the right way. And I think Tony Elliott's the right leader for that program. And I think you just see him what they've given him. So that's a 3:00 kickoff on the CW. So 3 down, 7 games to go. And there are more than 3 matchups to catch in that 3:30 window. So if you did decide to do the yard, if you did decide to hit the edging, if you did decide to go out and go shopping or do whatever in that noon window, or start your morning on the road, be home, because 3:30 it's on, if you will. The Georgia Bulldogs, the number 1 ranked team in the country, the reigning, defending national champions.
And I'm saying, woo, right here.
Two-time, back-to-back. They go to Knoxville, Tennessee, to take on the 18th ranked Tennessee Volunteers. That's a 3:30 CBS start. That 3:30 CBS SEC matchup has been in our What to Watch Wednesday window each and every week, and there's a reason why. That game is always a good one. Always a good one. Even when it's a blowout, it seems like the first half is always a good one to tune in and catch. Also at 3:30, over on NBC, how about this one? Notre Dame, the 17th ranked Fighting Irish. Or is that 19th, ranked Fighting Irish. Couldn't read my handwriting. 19th ranked Fighting Irish. They're hosting Wake Forest. The Demon Deacons going up against their former starting quarterback, Sam Hartman. Sam, don't call me Riley Skinner, Hartman, here on the program. That's up at Notre Dame Stadium. Again, a 3:30 start on NBC. Just the fascination with, what do you call it? Free agency, right? In the transfer portal. And Wake Forest is pretty terrible. Last weekend, they were atrocious, getting beat 26-6 by NC State, so much so that Dave Clawson apologized to the fan base. He has been a guy who, when you think about the history of Wake Forest football, he's been a guy who has positioned himself quite well. But this year has been a bitterly disappointing season for them. 4-6, likely to go to 4-7. Gonna miss a bowl game. I don't see them beating Notre Dame, but I am very intrigued. Sam Hartman and the Fighting Irish haven't played since losing to Clemson back on November the 4th, 31-23, and they get a chance to face off against his former teammates. And those guys have seen him a lot at practice. They've seen him a lot at practice. So I do wonder, does that help out some of those defensive backs in any capacity, just kind of knowing some of his tendencies? I don't know. But it's fascinating to see a player going up against his former team for sure. Keep your eyes on, though, Estime, the running back, Audric Estime for Notre Dame. He has the potential to have a big day for them. I really like the way that kid runs. I was fearful after his first run against Clemson that you were going to see that all day. Fortunately, you didn't. The Tigers really shut him down, held him just 5 yards in the second half. But again, that matchup on NBC at 3:30. Of course, you're likely to be there. North Carolina at Clemson. We always gloss over the Tigers game. That's on ESPN. We'll come back to it. Obviously, more tomorrow and Friday, but you kind of know what's on the line here for the Tigers. Positive momentum rolling into that matchup against South Carolina. Clemson gained bowl eligibility a week ago, sitting there at 6-4 overall, but 3-4 in the ACC. Clemson's in the bottom half right now of the ACC still, and would go a long way to go ahead and get them to 4-4 and finish the year even before heading down to face off with the Gamecocks under the lights next weekend in Williams-Brice. Then on ABC, UCLA's at Southern Cal. Obviously, the news out of UCLA yesterday that they fired Chip Kelly, likely to be fired, I guess. Did they not pull the trigger yet? Okay, likely to be fired in the coming weeks. That they're going to fire Chip Kelly. Let's say that. I thought they'd already pulled the trigger. Anyway, that's a storyline to certainly follow. Maybe depending on how they play in this game, might determine its fate. Either way, Lincoln Riley in Southern Cal, disappointing season, terrible defense. I keep thinking back to Corey Foreman. You remember the 5-star defensive lineman who was committed to Clemson coming out of, I believe it was Centennial High School. Dude, if that's right, if I'm on that, somebody hanging out with us watching, look it up. Corey Foreman coming out of high school. Was he Centennial High School? That's all the way out in California. I mean, it's not like I'm like, oh yeah, Dutch Fork. I'm going all the way across the coast, and I'm going 4 years in the rear view of his commitment. But you remember, was coming to Clemson, flips, goes to Southern Cal, and man, every week when I watch the Trojans give up 40-plus points, I just go, man, was it worth it? Was it worth it to go out there and just get run up and down the field? Anyway, that's my other 3:30 game, that UCLA Southern Cal game. Obviously, for Lincoln Riley, he's getting paid big time. I don't know who UCLA would go get if indeed they do pull the trigger. Let's see. Sports Illustrated said Chip Kelly may not be UCLA's coach when they face the Bruins. According to a report, Kelly's likely to be fired after the USC game if UCLA loses. Okay. 48 minutes ago, likely to be fired. I thought I heard they did fire him, but maybe I just misremembered it. Many sources say it's now very realistic that UCLA will fire Kelly after they play Southern Cal on Saturday. Yeah, I would say that it hasn't exactly worked out, right? If when you brought him in, and I think this is fair, even though, he had a stint, in Philadelphia with the Eagles. I think when UCLA brought him in, I think they were hoping that they were going to be able to become Oregon, right? And not only have they not been able to become Oregon, Oregon has become Oregon again. And so UCLA's probably sitting there going, wait a second. So this guy, and the Ducks, to their credit, even with Dan Lanning as the head coach, they've kind of kept some of their tendencies. They go for two here and there. Kind of wild how they're kind of the rebels when it comes to doing that kind of stuff that other teams won't. But maybe that's a part of it. There's got to be a frustration. You brought this guy in, you thought, man, we're gonna become that. It's not like Oregon was down, but they certainly weren't college football playoff Oregon. And here they are with a chance to get to the college football playoff this year, depending on how their season plays out. So maybe that's a part of it. Like UCLA people are like, did we get hornswoggled? All right. Final 3 games remaining on our What to Watch Wednesday list. We'll give them to you when we get back right here. The show that shakes the Southland. Woo! That's a lot. 7 games down. Oh, man. That's hilarious. All right. Drop this file in and we'll get rolling. All right, here we go. .442. We might is the record in jeopardy. 508. The record might be in jeopardy. And I'm not even going the fastest I can go. 23. Clemson Sports Talk, the show that shakes the Southland, live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter currently. You know, we do have the ability to stream it directly to the website for just our premium subscribers. So if you're watching this stream and you like it, maybe, just maybe, come subscribe. You can start for $1. After that, $63.17 for a year. Support us, help us grow. Be great. Post in the forums, be amazing. Share our stories. That's awesome. But I will say, if you choose not to, it's always free on the iHeartRadio app, and we podcast every episode, so you can get it there as well. All right, Clem and Son says his son's name is Tyler. Sorry, excuse me. His son's name is Tyler. And he says he's been having a lot of fun with it.
Hey, Tyler, I've listened to enough of you.
I've listened to enough of you, Tyler. Clem's son also wants to know, what do I think about Donald Trump attending the Clemson-South Carolina game? He says, I'm cool with it because I think he's a Clemson fan and he loves Dabo. Now, I know that Gamecock Central, we had Mike Uval on yesterday. I didn't ask Mike about it, but I know they published that Trump would be attending the game. I know that Governor McMaster also says that Trump has a standing invitation to the South Carolina game. Now, whether or not he's going to be there, I don't know. So the question, let me read the question again. What do I think about it? So when Clemson played LSU in the national championship in New Orleans, I think he was President Trump at the time. I think he was the president. He was at the game. I don't remember why, honestly. I know we got some photos of him at the game. I know that I was in the press box. It's not like his box was near where we were, so I didn't really see where he was. I think he was on like a level lower than us. Now, because I'm in the media, I got there early, okay? And I don't know what the logistics are on this. And it's probably going to push back our What to Watch Wednesday list to the next segment, just looking at the clock where we are now. But we'll finish up our What to Watch Wednesday in the next segment. I apologize. But traffic was not an issue for me, okay, getting to the Superdome. Is that what they call the stadium down there in New Orleans? I think it's the Superdome. Anyway, I didn't have a problem. I got there early. So I have no idea what the traffic was like if and when President Trump came in at the time. Now, even though he's not currently the president, he's still, and I don't remember how many, I think at one point only a handful of the presidents were going to have security details and all that. And then I think when President Obama was in office, I think that got switched back to where every president, I think even Jimmy Carter, I believe, would have a security detail at this point. But there was some conversations about, well, does every living president need it? Or just like the last 2 or 3 or whatever that was. It doesn't matter. But the point is, when, even though he's not the president, he still has that security detail. And the last time that I remember him coming to Columbia as the president, I was having to commute to iHeart to do this show. And he may have been back another time, not as president. But as president, I know where I was because I sat in traffic while they shut down the interstate. He was at he was speaking at some place downtown Columbia, and they had to get him to the airport, and they dump the entire interstate. Okay, I don't know if you know this or not. They have officers sitting at every intersection. I don't even think, if I remember, that we could drive straight ahead and go under the overpass, just in case, the president's coming along, and whether it's Trump, Obama, Bush, whoever. I remember when Obama was in town one time. I happened to be there when the motorcade came through. Dude, that is cool. It is cool. All these cars coming and lights flashing, and you don't know who's who and what's what. Anyway, because they all look the same, they're kind of trying to mask what vehicle the president might be in. But I think we couldn't even go under. If I remember, I was sitting in traffic. We couldn't get on the interstate. And I don't even think you could drive under the overpass for fear that, if the president's coming over the top, that somebody could drive under and try to like bomb him or something. I don't know. I'm sure Secret Service has all that like done up. Now, if I am a fan, traffic to get to the Clemson, South Carolina game is already horrendous. And they ain't flying Donald Trump in on a helicopter. That would be my issue if I'm a fan. Man, I don't want anything else that's going to slow the ability to get to Williams-Brice Stadium. So, what do I think about Trump attending the Clemson, South Carolina game if he does intend to, if he does attend it? I'm thankful that I'm going to be there way before Donald Trump will be arriving. And so I won't have to sit in the traffic that you may have to sit in, because I can assure you, however they get him there, they're going to shut something down to get him there. And I know it's tough to get in and out of Clemson Stadium. It's not great getting in and out of Williams-Brice, if I'm being honest. But I got to imagine it would be even worse if Donald Trump is there and they're trying to like get him in. Now, getting him out will be different because he probably won't stay for the whole game. They'll get him out and he'll be gone before we know it. That won't be a factor, I don't think. That might slow up a couple of people leaving unless Clemson pulls a little 63-17 reincarnation on Gamecock fans. And then, well, they might be caught up leaving the stadium. But as far as Trump attending, traffic would be my main issue for everybody involved. And I don't know, if you're not the president, but you still have the security, is your motorcade as big? I don't know. But anyway, that aspect of seeing any president's really cool. It's cool, man, when you see Air Force One flying. Dude, it's awesome. It really is an awesome sight. All right, quick break. We'll come back. I'll give you the final 3 games in our What to Watch Wednesday edition of the program. Yeah, traffic would be the only. That's like, Trump, Biden, Obama, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Reagan, Carter, Ford, Nixon. I don't care who it is that's coming. The traffic is the problem. Like I say, they're not flying them in. It'd be one thing if, Donald Trump's going to come to the game. We're going to fly him in on a helicopter and land him at the 50-yard line to let him in, and then we're going to fly him out at halftime. Well, that's not going to affect anybody. That ain't going to mess anybody up. But if he's got to drive in, I feel bad for anybody arriving at the same time as he does. Not great, Bob. Not great. Upload. Did I do that segment already? It's amazing. You guys keep me on my toes, bro. Keeping me on my toes. Oh, it's going to be, I'm looking at the 10-day forecast. It looks like it's going to be nice on Thanksgiving. All right. If you're watching, hit the share, hit the like, do all that, subscribe. Definitely follow us on TikTok. I need to update my graphics to include TikTok. I'm telling you, that's where it's at right now. I can post something to YouTube and it'll get X amount of views, whatever. And TikTok will get 250 times that amount. I don't know. Everybody likes a little TikTok, I guess. All right, 2 more segments. I blame Clem and Son for getting me off topic. Dang it, Clem and Son. Got me talking about Donald Trump and traffic. All right, here we go. Did I forget to do the stamp last time? Oh, man. Why? I think I did. My bad. Clemson Sports Talk, continuing our What to Watch Wednesday segment. Sorry, on the little tangent we got off on the traffic. around Williams-Brice Stadium if indeed former President Donald Trump does show up for the Clemson-South Carolina game. Governor McMaster has said that there is an open invitation. I don't know about y'all. Like, I'm not from Charleston. I don't have the Charleston accent, I don't think. Maybe you do. But when I hear Governor McMaster, to me, I just hear what's the guy's name? This guy.
Any of this getting through to you, son?
Like that's what I hear. What was that dude's name? The guy who's always messing with the chicken hog. I can see him. It's the same guy that did the Bugs Bunny voice, but that's what I hear when I hear Governor McMaster speaking. Deshaun Watson, by the way, had season-ending surgery for the Browns, so he's done for the year. It was on his shoulder. I know he'd been dealing with an ankle thing. I just want to put that out there real quick. But nonetheless, 7 o'clock window, the final 3 games of your What to Watch Wednesday, and I apologize that we pushed it back one segment. Number 21, Kansas State at number 25, Kansas. That's on FS1. Lance Leipold, he's a name. I got a text message, as a matter of fact, yesterday. I think it was Tiger Chuck. Hit us up on the text line, 803-450-0086. He said the Kansas coach he thought would be the guy that would go take the job at Texas A&M, and maybe so. Leipold's obviously done a really good job at a program that doesn't have the greatest track record, right? We talked about that the other day when we talked about the last time that Kansas kind of had this feeling around it was when Mark Mangino was their head coach. And I'm sure they're sitting there with bated breath going, oh, man, we got a guy that's probably going to command a pretty hefty dollar, but he ain't going to command, $7.5 million a year the way that Jimbo did coming out of the chute. They could get him. I don't know what. Let's see what he makes right now at Kansas. Let's see. Lance Leipold. Salary. Let's see what he's making. I would guess he's making 3.5, but maybe he's making more. $5 million. Okay. In all, next 7 years. He's making 5. I don't know if that's a new contract or his original one. Anyway, 7's probably the number that they might pay. That's kind of the going rate now. If you go for a guy like this, that's what you're going to pay. But I would think the Aggies would want to stay a little bit cheaper. TJ texted the program as well and wanted to know about Shipley and the potential that he might transfer out of the program. TJ, I kind of mentioned that before you got here. I think that text came in yesterday. I tried to address it earlier, though. So go check it out in the podcast. And if I get time here at the back end of the program, I might mention it again. Also, that 7 o'clock window, man, what a matchup. Number 5, Washington on the road at Oregon State. Number 11, Oregon State. DJ, Ungalale. And the 11th ranked Beavers hosting Washington on ABC. So DJ will get a chance to sling the magic bean up against a top 5 team who is trending towards the college football playoff if they can win the Pac-12 on ABC, a national audience. That'll be one you want to lock in and watch. If you haven't watched DJ playing at Oregon State, this would be one to do it because he's got a chance to play, really the upset special. Next week, they'll take on Oregon. He'll get another shot at it. Ironically, Oregon State, one of the last 2 teams remaining in the Pac-12. I'm just double-checking that because maybe I'm lying to you. Yep, it is Oregon State and Oregon next week. They will face off at 8:30 on Friday next week, the day after Thanksgiving, Oregon and Oregon State. But what a huge matchup that is this week for the Beavers, who face both of the 2 teams that sort of became the catalyst for the breakdown of the conference when Washington and Oregon joined Southern Cal and UCLA in going to the Big Ten. And then last, Kentucky at South Carolina, 7 o'clock, these games. This one's on the SEC Network. For South Carolina, keeping a chance to be bowl eligible alive is what's on the line. The Gamecocks also have an opportunity to, kind of turn the momentum of their season the way Clemson has the past couple of weeks heading into their matchup with Clemson. And if that game against Clemson is for bowl eligibility, as Mike Yuva said, he feels like there's a chance that Juice Wells might actually play. And Wells has not been playing. Wells has been injured. He hasn't, I think, as Mike said, has not always been on the injury report. And I think a byproduct of that at this point for him might be that he's not necessarily hurt, but he doesn't maybe feel compelled to play. And that's my thoughts. Mike didn't say that, but that's kind of how I read it. But if they have a chance to go to a bowl game, that would be against Clemson. Not the bowl game, but the matchup to get to a bowl game would be against Clemson. Then he might feel a little bit more compelled to get out there and play one final regular season game to try to help South Carolina gain bowl eligibility. But if they lose to Kentucky, which I think it's going to be a tough matchup for Carolina to win, to be honest with you. All right, 803-450-0086. Final segment here on a Wednesday afternoon, a What to Watch Wednesday edition of the program. Coming up right around the bend. So stick with us for more Clemson Sports Talk. You can listen to the show live right now on Fox Sports Radio 1400 in the Midlands. And, of course, you can listen around the world on the iHeartRadio app, on your Amazon Echo, or your Google Home device by simply saying, listen to Fox Sports Radio 1400. And don't forget, you got to say, hey, Shlomo, or whatever your device is called. I think the other reason I don't like doing the show necessarily live like this is, Lance Leipold, is when I don't do it live, I can take my time a little bit, preserve my voice some. Man. You got your boy stretching. How you like the off camera? I'm liking the off camera. Y'all like it? Like I like that I'm not staring you down the whole time. I hated that. I like that I can look if I want. I don't know how I look because I can't see the screen when I'm doing it, but I do prefer the off camera shoot. All right, here we go. 8. What? On a Monday. What a rookie, bro. What a rookie. I'm so mad at myself. Dang. How is that even possible? How did I do a segment 8 and not have the "We Win" clip in it? What a rookie. Hold on, I got to fix that. Segment 8. Here we go. Here we go. That's good. That's good. All right. Have I uploaded the file? Let me go ahead and load it in. I'll feel better. Remember, hit the like button and share it or whatever. Subscribe. Help us out. Help us out if you're hanging out with us. Help us grow. Follow us on TikTok. You know what I thought about doing? I'd love to gauge y'all's interest in this before I do the final segment. Offset camera is the way to go. Ooh, Cam. Foghorn Leghorn. That's it, man. That's who he reminds me of. I say, he does. He sounds just like him, dude. Just like him. I always thought, what was the other governor's name? Not Nikki Haley before that. I always thought that guy sounded a little bit like Elmer Fudd. I mean, what are we doing here? It's like a Warner Brothers cartoon. Is that Warner Brothers? Looney Tunes? Whoever. All right, anyway. I thought about this. I thought about doing a watch along of like a rebroadcast of the game. I just didn't know how interested you guys would be in something like that. So, like, say coming in on a Sunday, and all right, we're gonna start the game. We're gonna hit play in 3, 2, 1. They kind of updating you through the game. Like, okay, I'm at 14 minutes and 28 seconds left in the third quarter, and then you know what I mean, and just kind of go, oh, what was that play? And I can't really show it, but I could run it on my computer and pull up some clips here and there, like on a replay. I don't think I'd get frowned upon by ESPN for doing that. I would get frowned upon if I played the whole game. But what about like a watch along? I thought that would be kind of neat. Maybe I can try that for the South Carolina game. All right. Anyway, after the game, not during the game. Okay, here we go. Final segment. Final segment on a What to Watch Wednesday edition of the program, the website. Put the .com on it, doggone it. That's ClemsonSportsTalk.com. Coming up in just a little bit for those of you watching the show live, for those of you listening on iHeartRadio, we are closing in on the commitment of the number 2 prospect in the 2024 basketball class, the women's basketball class, as Camden 5-star Joyce Edwards will make her commitment known. She is down to South Carolina, LSU, and Clemson. She will make that decision known at 5:45. Now, remember, we were talking the other day with Clemson women's basketball coach, and this interview, by the way, is currently up on the website right now. As a matter of fact, if you want to check it out, let me pull the website up real quick with Amanda Butler. We go here and we go there, and then I hit share. Boom, that article, Amanda Butler on the power of the Paul driving women's basketball. She said, quote, "It's a brand that's recognizable." And obviously, for Joyce Edwards, she's an in-state kid, but the Tigers have already picked up the commitment and the signing of Amari Berry. And this is a class, or at least a program, I should say, maybe the better terminology, that is obviously headed in the right direction. And if they can potentially land another big commitment, another big prospect, look, I said I think Dabo Swanny and the brand is a part of the reason that sports on Clemson's campus have gotten better. I also said in that interview, and you can listen to the whole thing, I also said in that interview that I do feel like in some respects, Dawn Staley has elevated women's basketball in our state. And I think that has a direct correlation to Clemson's women's basketball team getting better. And I'm not saying that Clemson is ever going to be able to recruit at the same level as South Carolina, as the South Carolina women's team. But I think there is something to be said for girls who have grown up maybe being a Clemson fan by virtue of the Tigers being good in football, who end up being great basketball players, who love basketball because it's a thriving sport in the state for women because of Dawn Staley. I don't know how that could hurt you if you're Clemson. So, again, I don't know what Joyce Edwards will choose, but we'll certainly talk about it tomorrow, especially if she decides to be a Tiger over the reigning national champion LSU Tigers and a incredibly dominant South Carolina women's basketball program. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Who knows? Anyway, let's see. Anything I missed that I meant to get to today? I mentioned Deshaun Watson. Watson, I do see this article was not up when we started the show, I don't think. Deshaun Watson was in shock when he found out that he was going to be out. He says very tough. He's heard about it. Took 15 seconds before he could come up with the words, according to this article, to describe his emotions. Season-ending surgery to repair a fracture in his throwing shoulder. An MRI performed Monday revealed that Watson had a displaced fracture to the glenoid in his right shoulder. Team doctors determined Watson needed immediate surgery to avoid further structural damage. So Watson done for the year. Another Clemson Tiger out for the year that was on my fantasy team. Fortunately, I've got Big Trev, the Giant Killer, as my starting quarterback. But Mike Williams, obviously out for the year with an injury. Oh, yeah, final thing. I mentioned out of the gates, Draymond Green only got a minute. Okay, so in that matchup between Golden State and Minnesota, the kid from Minnesota, I can't remember his name, grabbed Klay Thompson and ripped his jersey, and Draymond came in. Rudy Gobert tried to get involved, and Draymond came up and kind of was putting Rudy Gobert in like a headlock. It's what it looked like, old school wrestling move. But here's the thing, and I know people want him suspended. I don't like Draymond Green. You know this. You've been around this program long enough. I think the guy needs to get his head on straight. But I watched it a couple of times. I didn't think he was putting any pressure on Gobert at all. As a matter of fact, I saw Gobert kind of smiling and almost laughing. And I don't think that Gobert in that moment was taking it as if he was being choked out. Now, maybe the NBA sees it different. Maybe they give him a 10-game suspension. Maybe they give him a 5-game suspension. I'd probably suspend him for about 3 games and call it a day. And my justification would be based off of what I've seen. And I didn't hear what Gobert had to say about it, so maybe Gobert was really mad. But to me, it didn't look like it was anything overly serious, quite frankly. It looked like they were more playing around almost. It's kind of weird. Anyway, maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll talk about it again tomorrow. Until then, though, as always, y'all take care now. And go Tigers! Yeah, I don't know if you watched it, but I think at first Draymond really grabbed him, because he's trying to. Let me pull the website up real. I think he was at first being aggressive because I think he thought it was going to be a fight. But then now, should he have held on? No kidding, Draymond. Don't be a dummy. But I really didn't think the look on Gobert's face was help, I'm being choked. He almost looked like you could definitely see that Draymond didn't have him like in an actual sleeper hold or a choke hold. Just kind of had his hands wrapped up around him. I don't think it's like a 10-game suspension kind of thing. And I know there was some debate about that for people. But like I said, I only watched it, once or twice, and it didn't look like they were fighting, those two guys specifically. And that, I think, should be taken into account. Anyway, I'm out of here. Thank you all for hanging out. Appreciate you, and I hope you'll support us on the website. Again, it's $63.17 for 1 year of coverage of your Tigers. You can get in for $1, though. And again, I think $63.17 for a year is a heck of a deal. Heck of a deal. And really, not even a deal, man. It's just a great way you can support us at a reasonable rate. We're not trying to get you for 100, get you for 150. I think 63.17's a fair 17 cents a day to stand behind what we do. So go check it out if you can. ClemsonSportsTalk.com. And it's not some Wix site. It's not, what were some of those other sites? No, this is legit site. Go check it out. Talk to you tomorrow. As always, y'all take care now and go Tigers.